Good morning, and welcome to World in 15, your trusted source for comprehensive coverage of today's most pressing events, delivered with accuracy, integrity, and insight.
The White House has stated that Israel's recent military operations in Rafah, southern Gaza, have not crossed the red lines set by the U.S. White House spokesman John Kirby emphasized that the U.S. does not consider Israel's actions a full-scale invasion of Rafah, despite Israeli forces reaching the city's center and capturing a strategic hill near the Egyptian border. President Joe Biden had previously indicated that he would limit weapons supplies to Israel if it entered the densely populated areas of Rafah, where many civilians are believed to be sheltering. We have Shelby reporting on this.
Kirby addressed concerns about an Israeli strike on a camp for displaced people that resulted in the deaths of at least 45 Palestinians, including women, children, and the elderly. Israel claimed the strike targeted senior Hamas officials and that a fire causing additional casualties may have been due to an explosion at a nearby Hamas weapons store. Kirby described the images from the strike's aftermath as heartbreaking and horrific, stressing that no innocent lives should be lost in the conflict. The U.S. State Department is closely monitoring Israel's investigation into the strike. When questioned about past investigations and accountability, State Department spokesman Matthew Miller refrained from providing specific examples, noting that conclusions cannot be drawn in the midst of an ongoing conflict. Kirby reiterated that there has been no change in U.S. policy and that the U.S. does not support a major ground operation in Rafah. He emphasized that should Israel undertake such an operation, it could lead to different decisions regarding U.S. support. Kirby stated that, so far, the U.S. has not observed a large-scale coordinated ground maneuver by Israeli forces in Rafah. Despite warnings of catastrophic humanitarian consequences, Israel maintains that capturing Rafah is crucial for victory in its 7-month war against Hamas. The Israel Defense Forces, IDF, began targeted ground operations in Rafah on May 6, gradually advancing into the area. President Biden, in a May 8 interview with CNN, asserted that he had informed Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that the U.S. would halt the supply of certain weapons if Israel launched a full-scale operation in Rafah's population centers. He clarified that weapons supplies had not been suspended at that point because Israel's operations were still near the border and not deep into Rafah's populated areas. Amid growing domestic pressure, including from Democratic Senator Chris Van Hollen, the Biden administration is urged to increase pressure on the Israeli government to minimize the humanitarian impact of the conflict. Van Hollen has called for a pause in offensive military assistance to Israel until it ensures compliance with the president's requests regarding Rafah and the delivery of humanitarian aid. Back to you, John.
Thanks for that update.
The state of Uttar Pradesh, UP, is pivotal in the upcoming Indian general elections, serving as a potential kingmaker for Prime Minister Narendra Modi's re-election bid. UP, with its population of approximately 257 million, is not only India's most populous state, but would also rank as the world's fifth-largest country by population if it were independent. It plays a crucial role in Indian politics, as it elects 80 MPs to the Lok Sabha, India's 543-member lower house of parliament. We have Anthony reporting on this.
UP's significance in the election is underscored by its involvement in all 7 phases of the voting process, which spans 44 days. The results, set to be announced on June 4, are highly anticipated. Historically, UP has been a strong indicator of national election outcomes, with the adage "the way to Delhi is through UP" reflecting its strategic importance. Notably, 8 of India's former prime ministers have represented UP, highlighting its political clout. In the 2014 elections, Narendra Modi, originally from Gujarat, chose to contest from UP's Varanasi, a seat he retained in 2019 and aims to hold again. His party, the Bharatiya Janata Party, BJP, won 71 seats in UP in 2014 and 62 in 2019. For the current election, the BJP has set an ambitious target of winning 70 or more seats, potentially even sweeping all 80. To achieve this goal, Modi has been actively campaigning across the state, engaging in numerous roadshows and rallies, sometimes up to 7 in a single day. His intensive campaigning reflects the high stakes of the election in UP. During his nomination filing in Varanasi, Modi was accompanied by Yogi Adityanath, the state's chief minister and a prominent BJP figure. Their arrival drew massive crowds, showcasing strong support for the BJP in the state. The BJP's strategy underscores the simple electoral math. Winning 70 seats in UP significantly boosts their chances of forming the government, requiring just 202 more seats out of the remaining constituencies across India. The Congress Party, led by figures like Gaurav Kapoor, acknowledges the strategic importance of UP. They recognize that a strong performance in this state is essential for any party aiming to secure a majority in the Lok Sabha. Overall, Uttar Pradesh remains the focal point of the general elections, and its electoral outcome will be crucial in determining whether Narendra Modi secures a third consecutive term as Prime Minister. Back to you, Bella.
Thanks for that update.
North Korea has launched 90 balloons filled with propaganda leaflets and rubbish into South Korea's Gyeonggi and Gangwon provinces, causing South Korean authorities to issue warnings to residents to stay indoors. The balloons, described as containing filthy waste and trash, are being analyzed by relevant authorities. We have Jensen reporting on this.
Both North and South Korea have a history of using balloons for propaganda since the Korean War in the 1950s. This recent incident follows North Korea's threat to retaliate against South Korean activists who have been sending leaflets and other items over the border. North Korea's Vice Minister of Defense, Kim Kang-il, recently announced that the South would directly experience how much effort is required to remove the waste. This statement was made in response to the frequent scattering of leaflets and other rubbish by South Korean activists. On Tuesday night, residents near Seoul and in the border region received text messages from local authorities advising them to avoid outdoor activities and to report any unidentified objects to military or police stations. Images on social media showed bags attached to white balloons containing items such as toilet paper, soil, and batteries. Some balloons reportedly contained what appeared to be feces. South Korea's military condemned the act, labeling it a clear violation of international law and a threat to public safety. They warned North Korea to cease these actions immediately, holding them accountable for any harm caused. South Korean activists have been known to send balloons carrying anti-Pyongyang materials, including cash, banned media content, and snacks. Despite a law passed in December 2020 criminalizing the launch of anti-Pyongyang leaflets, some activist groups continue to send such materials across the border. In the past, North Korea has launched balloons southward carrying items like toilet paper, cigarette butts, and other rubbish, which South Korean police described as hazardous biochemical substances. Back to you, John.
Thanks for that update.
Growing up amidst the chaos of war, Ukraine's children are adapting to survive the brutal realities of Russia's invasion. At 12 years old, Lyra Vasylenko is learning to walk again after a Russian missile attack shattered one of her legs and left the other severely burned. Her struggle is emblematic of the broader crisis affecting Ukraine's youth, who are enduring profound physical and psychological trauma. We have Alana reporting on this.
Nearly 2,000 children have been injured or killed since Vladimir Putin launched his full-scale invasion. The impact of the conflict is evident not only in visible injuries like Lyra's, but also in the psychological scars that many children bear. Psychologist Katerina Basil highlights the catastrophic number of children suffering from war-related issues, noting an alarming rise in young patients with symptoms such as insomnia, panic attacks, flashbacks, and depression. Lyra's story provides a poignant snapshot of this new reality. On a hot summer day in Chernihiv, she and her friend Ksenia were selling homemade jewelry when a missile struck. Lyra recalls the terrifying moment she saw the missile seconds before it hit, initially mistaking it for an aircraft. In the aftermath, despite her severe injuries, she ran in panic until her friend pointed out the damage to her leg. Chernihiv, located in northern Ukraine, endured relentless bombardment at the start of the war in 2022, though Russian forces were eventually pushed back. However, peace remains elusive. On August 19, 2023, the city experienced a devastating missile attack during an exhibition at the local theater, resulting in numerous casualties and injuries, including Lyra's. 9 months after the attack, Lyra is healing physically with scars and skin grafts marking her recovery. Metal implants in her leg have helped her regain mobility, and she moves with agility on crutches. Yet, the psychological trauma lingers. The sound of air raid sirens triggers intense anxiety, and the mere mention of an impending missile strike sends her into a state of panic. Lyra's resilience in the face of such adversity underscores the broader struggle of Ukrainian children growing up under the constant threat of war. Their stories of survival and adaptation highlight the urgent need for psychological support and a peaceful resolution to the conflict, ensuring that the next generation can heal and rebuild their lives. Back to you, Bella.
Thanks for that update.
In the closing stages of Donald Trump's historic hush money trial, the defense and prosecution presented their final arguments to the jury, each aiming to sway the verdict in their favor. We have Jordan reporting on this.
Mr. Trump's lead attorney, Todd Blanche, launched a vigorous attack on Michael Cohen, Trump's former fixer and the prosecution's key witness. Blanche labeled Cohen as the greatest liar of all time, emphasizing Cohen's history of dishonesty, including his conviction for lying under oath and his admission of stealing from his former employer. Blanche argued that Cohen's personal vendetta against Trump makes him an unreliable witness, asserting that Cohen is the human embodiment of reasonable doubt. Throughout the trial, Trump, who is also the presumptive Republican nominee for the upcoming election, has been present, often appearing contemplative during the proceedings. The case revolves around a $130,000 payment made to Stormy Daniels, a former adult film star, before the 2016 election to silence her about an alleged affair with Trump. Prosecutors alleged that Trump falsified business records when he reimbursed Cohen for the payment, disguising it as legal fees with the intent to unlawfully influence the election. The prosecution, led by Joshua Stinglass, painted Cohen as a flawed but essential guide to a mountain of evidence against Trump. Stinglass argued that the core of the case is about a conspiracy and a cover-up, highlighting the various documents and recordings that support the allegations. Despite acknowledging Cohen's dubious past and the problematic testimony of other witnesses like Daniels, Stinglass urged the jury to focus on the evidence rather than the credibility of individual witnesses. The prosecution's challenge is to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Trump falsified business records to cover up another crime, specifically to influence the 2016 election. Some legal experts believe this broader theory may be difficult to sell to the jury, particularly given the complexities and duration of the closing arguments. Former federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani suggested that the prosecution might have overextended their final points, potentially diluting their impact. Ultimately, the 12 jurors must unanimously agree to convict or acquit Trump. A failure to reach a unanimous decision would result in a mistrial, leaving Trump's legal fate hanging in the balance. Back to you, John.
Thanks for that update.
Democrats have devised a plan to overcome the partisan deadlock that could potentially prevent President Joe Biden from appearing on the general election ballot in Ohio. In response to Republican officials' resistance over the convention's dates and state ballot access laws, the National Democratic Party has announced a virtual nomination process for Mr. Biden ahead of the convention. We have Ava reporting on this.
Democratic National Committee Chairman Jamie Harrison declared that Joe Biden will be on the ballot in Ohio and all 50 states, emphasizing the party's determination to ensure his inclusion despite opposition. The decision to virtually nominate Biden comes as a solution to the ongoing standoff over convention logistics and ballot access regulations in Ohio. Traditionally, party conventions are grand events held during the summer, culminating in the formal nomination of the presidential candidate through an in-person roll call of every U.S. state and territory. However, the pandemic necessitated virtual conventions in 2020, and both parties have planned to return to in-person gatherings this year. The Ohio Republican elections chief had raised concerns that the DNC event's timing violated state election laws, prompting the Democrats to take proactive measures to secure Biden's ballot placement. While past conflicts over ballot deadlines have been resolved without major issues, this year's opposition from Ohio Republicans necessitated alternative solutions. Despite calls for legislative action to address the issue, doubts remained over whether the Ohio state legislature would implement a fix. In response, Democrats opted for a virtual roll call to ensure Biden's inclusion on the ballot and protect voters' rights. The specific details of the virtual roll call, including the participation of every state and territory, are yet to be finalized. Nonetheless, Democrats are adamant about safeguarding democracy and ensuring that Ohioans can freely exercise their right to vote for their preferred presidential candidate, irrespective of partisan obstacles. Back to you, Bella.
Thanks for that update.
Thanks for tuning in to World in 15 for your daily dose of news and updates. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on breaking stories and insightful analysis.